All right. Well, hey,
Hi,
welcome to the podcast.
this is awesome.
So this is pretty cool. This is like our first podcast. So, well, everybody knows you as Mareesha. Do you want to just keep it as Mareesha?
Yes. No one needs to know my other names.
Yeah. Your
Well,
stage
Bubbles with Mishi or Minerva.
is
But
that your stage name?
my
Or-
stage name was Minerva. I had to share it with all the other performers.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, welcome to the show, and so good to have you here. When we've had some good laughs over the years.
Too bad we didn't get a lot of that on, especially last night's conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll recreate it.
So, all right. Well, let's start off like, who the hell is Misha? So, let's see. Tell me a little bit about you.
I mean, there's so much to tell. I'm a busybody. Well, right now I'm working as a master scuba diver trainer with Patty, and I teach a whole bunch of specialties, but my biggest love is cave diving. And so I got cave certified a couple of years ago, but I just want to like continue doing that, and everything else is just kind of supporting my dream.
Yeah. Funding it, eh?
Yeah. Well, try funding diving. You have to win the lottery.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an expensive sport.
Yes.
For those who don't know, anyway, yeah, that's Mareesha, but who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, Jason, tell us about yourself.
Well, I'm Jason McLaughlin, and we own Pegasus, and the Pegasus Dive Center and the Pegasus Safety and stuff. So a lot of our work is in film and television. We do a lot of the safety and stuff like that. And my background, also a diver and commercial diver. We do a lot of the safety diving and underwater filming for the movies, as well as a lot of other safety like rigging and stuff like that. So my background is like in the military and fire department and search and rescue.
Everything.
And everything. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what kind of formed Pegasus. And then just through the diving community is how we met.
Yeah. Actually, I don't even remember exactly how we met.
I think we met at Dean's at the Dive Academy in Oakville.
Yeah, that's probably the most likely place.
I think the first time I think I met you was on the regulator fundamentals course. I was helping Dean
Oh, right.
for hog. Yeah.
Yeah, when I was becoming a hog tech.
That's
Yeah.
right. So I
right.
was working with Dean and teaching the courses and stuff, and yeah, you were there. So, and then our paths just keep crossing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been fun, and now here we are. You're working with us quite regularly now, so that's really cool.
It is actually.
And yeah,
It's super fun.
Yeah, so I'm a PADI instructor, and so are you. So it's it's been a lot of fun. Keep crossing our paths, teaching courses and stuff like that. So it's been a lot of fun getting to do that. And
We have a lot to cover in the next few podcasts, I'm sure.
oh yes, there's a lot to talk about.
And maybe some stuff we shouldn't talk about.
Yeah, yeah. That'll be on podcast XXX for this.
Yeah, you got to subscribe.
Yeah,
There's some juicy stuff.
Yeah, some juicy bits. But let's get to why don't we start off with cave diving? You told me a bit of a horror story there.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into that?
I mean, yeah, I can totally. I mean, there are a few, unfortunately, but
Yeah, I'm sure anybody that does cave diving at some point, you've got a horror story.
yeah.
It's stressful enough, I'm sure. I've only done cavern, like the cenotes and stuff, but I haven't done cave, like full caves or anything like that. So I'm sure like when you get to your level and you've done all the caves and everything, the stories are not hard to come by.
It's actually kind of crazy because I would say that I probably have about 75 cave dives under my belt, which like in the grand scheme of things is really nothing, right? Like when you look at like accident analysis, like people typically like don't even start to feel comfortable around cave diving until about 120 dives. So I still consider myself like super new to cave diving. And so the crazy part is that in such a short time that I've experienced so many things happen. On the one hand, you're like, do I have really bad luck? Or is it good to get all my experience right off the bat,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I love those dives. The dives that go wrong are my favorite dives because that's when you get to test yourself. You find out what you're made of and you find out if you're training, like do you trust yourself? How are you going to react in the situation? And then you either come out of it being, feeling motivated to like work harder and get better, or you come out of it like with like a little bit of confidence and that kind of pushes you to do the next thing, right? Rebreather.
Yeah. Yeah. Cha-ching.
Yeah. And there goes my money.
Well, as instructors, like dealing with, students who've never dove before, and up here in Canada, a lot of the open water dives, unless you go to like places, like Tobermory, which is quite popular and stuff, and there is some other lakes that are, the visibility is pretty good, but for the most part, you're in like quarries and stuff around, and the visibility is horrible. Yeah. And you're trying to teach new divers, and it's stressful enough trying to make sure that they don't mess up and do something stupid, but at the same time is you're watching one person and now
what
holy
happens
crap,
to the other guy?
Where'd he go? So it's like the visibility thing is sometimes an issue here, and
yeah,
I'm sure like we prepare ourselves a bit for those like scenarios, like somebody's gone. Oh, okay, yeah. There they are.
Like buddy separation protocol and all of that. We always like brief it, like thoroughly before the start of a dive, because you can lose your buddy sitting right next to them in our conditions.
Yeah, like so. I mean, when you're talking about falling back on your training, I'm sure this kind of leads up and kind of gives you a little foot in the door before. You get into cave training where
100%.
It gets a little more difficult.
The biggest part of the cave training, I mean, like obviously you have like all of your emergency protocols and all of that, but kind of like the worst case scenario in a cave is you are air dependent, you are deep into a cave, and you've been silted out. You can't see anything. And that's kind of like the worst case scenario. You got to exit using tactile, and if you're air dependent, you also have to be able to notify your buddy in zero visibility that you're out of air and then like help yourself to theirs. And so I think when we were doing our training, when we were doing our initial cave training, they put a blindfold on you. And because of the diving that we do, it was calming. I was not freaked out at all. I'm like, go ahead, go blind me. I don't care. I do this every day.
Yeah, it's zero vis. That's diving.
Nothing. That's every single day. What? I'd be freaked out if I could see something. But yeah, we were, so I got my certification, my full cave, I guess 2 or 3 years. I don't know. It all kind of like melts together. But I was one of 2 people at our dive shop that did it initially. And so when we came back the following year, I was fully certified and I just intended to go fun dive. But 2 more of our members decided to take the course. And unfortunately, the guy that I did my course with was unable to join us for the trip. And so I ended up, butting up with a friend of mine who was training to be a cave instructor and then somebody who had just completed their cave training. And that's going to be a story for another day. That was interesting. But I had asked towards the end of my friend's training, I had asked their instructor, would it be okay if I shadow? And I figured it was going to be pretty straightforward. I already had like so many cave dives, both in Florida and Mexico, under my belt. I was pretty comfortable. I was diving all week with people in caves and having different scenarios. And they were on a training dive. So I thought, well, this is all going to be kind of straightforward, right? And so we went in. It was one of their last dives. And so they had their instructor, and the 2 of them like I was included in basically a team of 3, but I wasn't going to be doing any of the navigation. I was just kind of following along so they could do their course. But one of the things that when you're in a cave, before you make any kind of navigational decision, it is standard that you stop and you check, you check your gas first and foremost, and you confirm with your team that everyone's on the same page, that this is where we're going and this is how we're going to mark our exit, etc.
Yeah.
So I was in what we call third position. So my 2 friends that were training were in positions 1 and 2, and I was in third position. And they didn't really need to communicate with me because I'm a shadow. Obviously, they still did, but as they're making their navigation, so I also am checking my gas. And right at that moment, as they made their navigation, and I was pulling up my SPG to see what my gas was, the entire SPG, the high pressure hose, and the piece that screws into the port ripped right out, just broke.
Oh no.
I have never seen this kind of failure before in my life. And I'm just floating there holding my SPG like a lollipop in my hand and watching my air just like, high pressure just right out of my first stage. So
Oh
the
no.
protocol is obviously you need to shut down your gas. So you need to communicate to your team, attention, I got something wrong. You check which regulator you're breathing from, and then make sure that you switch to the one that you're not about to shut down, and then you go ahead and shut down the tank. So it's, I wasn't really worried. When we calculate our turn pressures and all of that, we take into account that, like, it's not, you don't plan your gas the same way that you do in open water. You want to plan that you have enough gas to go in, to come out, and that you have enough gas for your buddy from the deepest point of your dive to come out in case they have a complete failure. So between the 3 of us and the instructor, I didn't feel like I was in danger, but you're still 45 minutes into a cave. You just had a serious malfunction, and it's going to take you 45 minutes to get out. So there's some
Yeah.
interesting thoughts in my head over those 45 minutes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Don't leave me.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
that was good.
But no, that's great though. Like the training and everything and all the safety protocols in cave diving. And it's like, I know a lot of accidents, obviously, that do happen in these caves. And why do you think that is? I mean, you think that's just poor planning, poor gas management, people doing stupid things that they should. Yeah.
That, I think, I did do some accident analysis. It's like part of learning to become a cave diver. You do have to learn about accident analysis and find out, like, you'll basically they'll tell you like various accidents that happen in Florida or Mexico and things that should have been straightforward and unfortunately ended up like ending poorly. And sometimes it's just like in open water diving, it's not necessarily that you had a big catastrophic event. It's not, when you look at people who have passed away in caves, it's not always what happened to me where like all of a sudden you have a huge problem with your equipment. It's little tiny mistakes that snowball, right? And so I think that number, once you hit 120 dives in a cave, I think that kind of like indicates where you start getting like, you've done enough dives that you start to get compliant, right? Or complacent. And that's when you start taking like things for granted, right? And the one thing that I took from the accident analysis is just like treat every dive like it's your first dive into a cave. Don't take anything for granted. Don't skip any steps. Don't, never ever push your limits. Like one of the things in Florida, there's a place in Florida that I've been diving several times. It's this place called Buford Sink, and it's in a place called Chassahowitzka. It's north of Tampa Bay, and it's a cavern. There is a cave portion to it, but it's a cavern, and it's accessible to anybody. And it's basically just like this crystal clear water, And when you look straight down, there's the cavern. So if you get into trouble at any point, you can just swim back up. And a lot of people, a lot of like open water divers, go in there, whether, they should or they shouldn't. I mean, people do. People free dive there. And I read, like, I guess a couple of years ago that there's a fatality there. And if I remember correctly, it had nothing to do with the fact that it was a cavern or a cave. What it was is it was two open water divers who went down and did their dive. They came back up. And typically after a dive, you would go and you would swap tanks. You would sit and do your surface interval. You would do, all those things to have a safe second dive. And witnesses said that one guy turned to the other and said, "How much gas you got left?" And he's like, "Oh, I got this much." She goes, "Oh, we got enough for one more. Let's go." And neither one of them came back up, right? And that's open water. So, it's just stupid, like complacency, things like that, that I think, when it comes to cave diving, even something small, it can eventually lead to, a catastrophic event. Because there's no room for error there. You can't just be like, "Oops, I made a mistake. Let's go up." There is no up.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like it's, I'm sure like even diving normally, like if you're just going out in the ocean looking at reefs or whatever, and, you're at about 120 dives, like eventually something will go wrong. And, it's when there's no ceiling above you, it's one thing because you can just say, "Oh, time to go." Even with your dive buddy, it's just to the surface, whether you have to do a safety stop or whatever, But, in a cave, it's a totally different thing. Like you're exerting yourself as you're swimming across. You've got a roof above you. There's, passageways you got to go through. And, it's,
you can silt yourself out too, which is,
And you get lost and, miss your turn or whatever.
If you put if you put a navigational marker in the wrong spot, you're literally leading yourself back into a cave.
It's a death sentence. Yeah. So there's a lot of protocols for sure. And, there's a reason why the training is very difficult.
Yeah. It's very intense.
Yeah.
It's intense,
So, yeah, like even as a commercial diver and a dive instructor and stuff, myself, like I kind of dread going to do the cave course because I'm just like, oh my God, there's going to be so much, it's retraining your whole brain, like safety I mean, having that training and then just going doing normal dives, it must feel like so easy.
I don't know that it feels easy, but everything becomes an opportunity to practice all of a sudden.
Yeah, I guess easy is not the right word, but it's like you feel more confident.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're, all the safety protocols, right? If something goes wrong, like we were down at 115 feet once on a dive and both regs started to free flow because they were frozen. And it's like, well, that never happens, but it did. And, so luckily we were right there. I got my dive buddy, passed off my octo, and we're like, called the dive, let's go. But, we still had a safety stop and stuff to deal with. But, that's what dive buddies are for, right? So it's eventually when you're diving long enough, something is going to happen. So just having all the training in the background to, even the safety protocols instilled in you with cave diving will make you feel more confident as just a regular day-to-day diver,
For sure. And I think like it's kind of weird, but, free diving, if anything, like if I was going to say anything really prepared me for like the mental side of cave diving, it was free diving.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because in free diving, like in any kind of diving, if you panic, you're going to die. Right. And so when if you panic at like 120 feet, okay, like you can still go up. You might skip your safety stop. You might have to, maybe you took on some deco and you end up in the chamber. It's not like, there's still a chance you're going to come out of it okay. But in cave diving, if you panic, I mean, it's over.
Yeah.
And so you really got to have like a grip on like your mental state. And in free diving, that's the name of the game. You feel physical discomfort, you experience mental discomfort, and you have like this internal battle with yourself. And you have to consciously bring down your heart rate. You have to consciously be in control, and you have to consciously like force yourself to focus, right?
Yeah.
And that to me, I think, was like the biggest preparation for like cave diving. I mean, aside from bad visibility.
Yeah. And, being a commercial diver is, I find sometimes what happens with myself, I can't speak for everybody, but when you get so busy and you're working and you're hustling, like doing stuff, and it's like I find sometimes that I can overbreathe my reg, and I find myself hyperventilating, like,
Right.
and it's like you got to stop yourself. And what I do is I just hold on to something, or like depending on where, even if it's the line, whatever, and I close my eyes and just
Yeah. You bring down your heart rate.
yeah, calm yourself. Like, and it's just, because you start getting to that point and you're just like, and you're just like, I can't breathe. I can't. Instead of panicking, I just like close your eyes and just like calm your breathing down, and it helps. It's just, and it's not that you're afraid or something spooked you. It's just like sometimes you're just get going, and just like any type of physical activity, right? Your heart rate gets up there and you're breathing hard, and it's like you just got to be careful.
With the regulator, like, I mean, people that are like working construction on land, they're working hard, they're breathing hard, right? And then add to that you have to, I mean, even with a regulator in your mouth, even the act of inhaling takes more effort underwater than it does at the surface. So it's like, you really need to like be in control. I think you'd be great in a cave.
I mean, I've done a lot of snow day diving, but it's there's nowhere to do it here in Canada. Like there's in Ontario.
Cave diving?
Yeah, no, I mean like to go get your cave certification. Like you could go to Florida. I mean, if you want to do it right.
Yeah.
Go to the people that do it every day. Don't go get your certification from some guy who does 1 or 2 dives a year.
Yeah.
It's like it's down
not worth your life.
No, it's like learn from the guys who do it every day. Like go down to Florida. There's lots of very experienced cave divers down there, and same with Mexico.
Yeah.
So I mean,
like the guys when we were shopping around trying to figure out who we wanted to do our training with, it's like the criteria is like, who are the guys that get sent in when everything goes wrong? Who are the guys that get sent in to fix the lines when they break? Like, who are those guys? Because those are the guys I want to train with. So that's who I train with.
Yeah. I'm sure there's like a lineup to get into Ed Sorensen's place. It's like, yeah. That's cool. Now, I know you had a bit of a scary situation with a diver in Mexico.
Yeah.
Do you want to get into that, or you want to save that for another one?
I mean, I could totally get into it. We could get deeper into it in the future if you have more questions, but I could definitely. Yeah. So this was again.
We'll just touch on it briefly, and then we'll save that for another podcast. But let's kind of
we'll
build
set
some
the stage.
Yeah. So it was a summer.
It was a summer night. No. Again, so. This again kind of comes back to like my inexperience, right? And like I said, I was like only certified for about a year at that point. I knew that I didn't want to dive without like someone who was more experienced. But at the same time, you don't want to end up in a situation where you are constantly following. Like you need to lead if you're going to learn, right? Mm-hmm. And so we had gotten a guide, and like I said, the guy that I did my training with was unable to come on that trip, and the other guys were in the middle of getting trained. And I figured, well, I'm all the way out here to want to get some dives under my belt. And the and so the dive shop that I was at, they said, well, there's this guy who just finished his course. You guys could buddy up and then you can take one of our guides and then you guys can start building on your experience. And I had heard like other people talk about, well, I will only dive with like my crew, or I will only dive with like the people that I've like trained with, etc. And that was originally my plan, but I was kind of in this weird situation where I paid all this money to be down there. I was itching to get in the caves. And I figured, well, we're with a guide. I don't know this guy, but I'll get to know this guy. And he was really nice. He's really lovely, and we have a lot in common. And we've dove a lot of places together. And he has a lot of experience. Like he said that he was a tech diver, and he has dove like the Empress of Ireland and all this stuff. So I had a lot of confidence, being buddied up with him and going out there. But there was, I think we had done 5 days of diving together with our guide, who, by the way, so the guide, when I was doing my cave course,
Yeah.
her name is Maria, and she was actually shadowing my course because she was becoming a cave instructor. So I felt very confident with her. I had no problems getting in a cave with her because I'd already done that. And she was amazing. So anyway, we started off kind of easy early on in the week, and we had like a couple of hiccups here and there. Some of it was to do with the fact that there's different systems in cave diving. There's cookies and arrows, and there's REMs, and you can totally dive both. You just have to make sure you brief it thoroughly, when you become a team. So there have been some hiccups during the week, but we chalked it up to, I'm a new cave diver. He's a brand new cave diver. We're diving different systems, and we just took it easy. So on one of the last dive that we did together, I was a little bit nervous just because of what had happened earlier in the week. But we had decided the 3 of us were going to do one more dive together. And there was this very particular cenote that they had in mind. I was down for whatever. I was like, take me wherever you want. I don't remember the cenote though. Shoot. That got erased from my mind. So anyway, we were planning out our dive. He had asked, is it okay if I lead? Because I want to get more experience. I said, yeah, not a problem for me. And so he took the lead position. I took position 2, and then Maria took 3rd position. So we have to reel in at the entrance of this cave. We have to reel in. They on purpose cut back the lines inside the cave so that divers that are not cave certified don't know where to find it and don't accidentally end up somewhere where they shouldn't be. So you have to reel in from the outside. You tie in. And before we went on our dive, we had met another team that said they were going to dive the same tunnel as us. So we kind of briefed with them beforehand, and we kind of came up with a protocol. If we see each other, you guys, the divers going out, get the right of way, et cetera, et cetera. So we were all on the same page. Anyway, at some point during this dive, this cave dips down kind of deep. I would say probably about like 70 feet or like, 21 meters, somewhere around there, right? And the water is very, very warm. Like you and I, we're used to cold water. And in cold water, I tell people all the time, so even though as an open water diver, you're told narcosis typically occurs around 100 feet or 30 meters, we very often as cold water divers know people can experience narcosis in shallow waters because of the temperature. But I wasn't really concerned about it because the water was very, very warm, around 28 degrees Celsius. So I wasn't concerned. Anyway, we ended up going down. And at some point, we went through a restriction.
Yeah.
And then beyond the restriction, there was a 90-degree turn. And after we went through the restriction, the 90-degree turn, so the guy that was leading, he turned around and he gave us a signal, okay, it's time to turn the dive. So he had obviously reached some kind of turn limit.
So why don't we pause it there?
That's a perfect place to stop it. Dun, dun, dun.
So like now everybody wants to know what happened.
What happened?
So yeah, let's we're gonna end it there. And we'll save the continuation for the next podcast. How's that sound?
Or maybe the one after.
Oh.
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 Leave him hanging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love it. All right, cool. Well, why don't we wrap this up quick, and then we'll call this podcast one.
Podcast one.
Yeah,
We
and
did
then
it.
and then we can we'll work on others, obviously. But I think this is a good start and a good
You have to wait till the end of the season to find out what happens.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you which episode.
Yeah, I think there's a little sound effect here for it.
I love it.
All right, cool. Well, anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Mareesha, thanks so much for joining me.
Are you kidding? You couldn't keep me out of here.
Yeah,
You're
I
going to
know.
have to put a lock on that door.
It's hopefully the door's always open for you. So just come
You will
on
have
in.
you will have no one else. It's just going to be me here every day.
You know what? That'd be awesome because there's lots to talk about.
It's true.
Yeah. So let's wrap up podcast number 1. And
That's it. Number 1.
Well, guys, please, if you have any comments, please leave them down below. And if you liked it, give us a thumbs up and think about subscribing to see what happens to diver number 3.
Oh my God.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
All right. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys next time. Cheers.
Bye.